Model 3 generative android powering on. Film review function engaged. Spoiler-free mode activated. Hey Latchkey kids and driving mutants, I'm Lady Shasha, mistress of the snark, connoisseur of the gore, and your hostess with the mostest, and I just watched M3GAN. The first part of this review will be spoiler-free, but I will let you know when I get to the spoiler section. When I first saw the trailer for M3GAN, it reminded me of this. Small Wonder was a sitcom during a time in the 80s when sitcom premises were pretty wild. The zany adventures of a suburban family, their next-door neighbors, and an innovative robot designed to look like a human child. A furry alien wise guy comes to live with the Tanner family after crashing into their garage. A wacky alien comes to Earth to study his residents, and the life of the human woman he boards with is never the same. A teenager discovers she has supernatural powers when she learns her birth father is an alien. It's like the writer of M3GAN said, small wonder, but make it horror. Speaking of writers, shout out to Akela Cooper, who's the screenwriter, and James Wan, who has a story by credit. Akela is also the screenwriter for *Malignant* and *Hellfest*, amongst her many other writing and producing credits. Shout out to the director as well, Gerard Johnstone, who is also known for directing *Housebound*. I really enjoyed this movie if you can't tell, but if you know me, you know I love a killer doll movie. Hence my dollathons. I also love tech horror, which, by the way, I do have a playlist of tech/cyber horror movies that I have reviewed, so check those out when you get a chance. This is like the best of both worlds. Mind you, I don't love every killer doll movie, but this one, I love. M3GAN gave me what I came for. A nice, concise story, a cool build-up to her shenanigans. It had an old-school storytelling style. Felt like I was watching a canon film. By the way, they did not leave out the camp. Personally, I feel that in order for a movie like this to work, there must be a little bit of camp. It cannot take itself too seriously. I was a little bit afraid that they showed the best scenes in the trailer. Thankfully, that's not the case. There's still many scenes that will come as a surprise for some. I've seen so much horror, I could guess what was going to happen next. That said, I still enjoyed it. At first, I was disappointed when I saw that the movie had a PG-13 rating, and I felt that that might neuter it a little bit. There were cutaways, no nudity, and no foul language that I could recall. Really, there was only one sort of gory scene. I would describe it as light gore.
Ow! Let go! You need to learn some manners, Brandon. You know what happens to bad boys that don't mind their manners? They grow up to be bad men. Are you listening to me, Brandon? M3GAN?
However, according to screenwriter Akela Cooper, an R-rated version could be made available streaming. She says on movieweb.com, no shade to Universal, love them. And I understand that once the trailer went viral, teenagers got involved, and you want them to be able to see it. There should be an unrated version at some point. I heard it's on the books. But yes, it was way gorier. Her body count in the script was higher than in the movie. It wasn't a Gabriel in Malignant scale massacre, but she did kill a bunch more people, including a couple characters whom James was like, I like what you did with those people, but I want them to live. I was merciless. But again, that is me. My humor is extremely dark. I really hope that an unrated or R-rated version does happen. I'm so here for that. Akela also said, quote, I love the response to Malignant, and I'm loving the response to M3GAN. But I have to be honest, it's not like I sit down and say, I'm going to write the craziest ish, and it's going to be so campy. I start with character and story and making them real.
Your arm, Blanche, your
You are campy. Embrace it. By the way, I kind of needed to check myself about the PG-13 thing because kids need to have fun too. When I was a kid, we had some fun slumber party horror, as I call it. Movies like The Gate, Tremors, and House 2, The Second Story were a fun time without being too scary. We also had movies like Mirror Mirror, Witchboard, and Warlock, which were rated R for reasons. Seriously, why did those movies warrant R ratings? I really can't think of what elements in them would require them to be rated R. Chud is another one we watched a lot at slumber parties. Don't ask me why, but me and my cousins love to watch Chud. Anyways, my point is the kids need to have fun too. I love the ending of this movie. It pays homage to Robocop, Terminator, as well as Child's Play, all at the same time. I love M3GAN's wardrobe, as you can see. Homegirl was serving. Look at this peak coat telling me she's broke. Not just serving looks in clothes, but also serving looks in these facial expressions that they were giving this doll. The way she was side-eyeing people, I was like, you don't see this android doll side-eyeing y'all? M3GAN also broke what I call the January curse. What's that? It's said that studios drop movies in January that they have no confidence in. As of this recording, M3GAN is one of the few movies in the last 45 years to drop the first weekend in January and be this successful. Currently, she's also obtained a 98% fresh score on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't think Universal nor Blumhouse had low confidence in M3GAN, especially based on their marketing. Can we talk about the M3GAN marketing? It would make William Castle so proud. William Castle was a film director and producer known for his films and for his promotional methods. Castle often appeared at the beginning of his own films, warning moviegoers about the terrors they were about to experience. To ensure that audience reaction was maximized, Castle frequently resorted to interactive gimmicks, like theater seats wired to slightly electrocute patients during the scary scenes in The Tingler, a 3D skeleton that floated from the screen on wires during House on Haunted Hill, and cards handed out by ushers purportedly letting moviegoers determine how the movie would end for his Mr. Sardonicus promotion. One of his wildest promotions was for his 1958 film Macabre, at which each audience member was given an insurance certificate from Lloyd's of London, guaranteeing a $1,000 payout if they died of fright. These promotional stunts worked, as William Castle's films rarely failed to turn a profit. Last year, Paramount Pictures did a similar marketing promotion for the horror movie Smile. I thought it was very effective. It took the William Castle method of marketing into the age of social media viral campaigns. The promo for M3GAN took notes on the promo from Smile and also William Castle, and I'm digging it. There were dancing M3GANs. M3GAN's on the subway being creepy. She trolled people at screenings and popped up behind some broadcasters as well. She even had a back and forth with Chucky on Twitter. M3GAN was even there to directly troll the audience at screenings.
No, I thought I saw her smile.
I'm trying to catch her on camera doing it, and I feel like the guys from Nope.
She just blinked.
Proof that M3GAN is watching us as we watch her and might kill us all later.
Well, we'll see.
I love having fun and going to the movies. But you know what I don't like? Talking or texting during the movie. Stop texting and put your phone away. You need to learn some manners.
I'm so happy that having fun has made a comeback. The promo around this movie is just so fun. If you can watch this movie in the theater with a crowd, I highly recommend it. I'm gonna get into some spoilers now. So go check out M3GAN before watching the next section of this video, and I'll be back in a moment to talk about spoilers. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert. One more time for the people in the back. Spoiler alert. You have been warned. This movie starts out with an ad for Perpetual Pets, and I kind of got a kick out of them because they look like demented Furbies, although Furbies kind of already look demented.
I had a dog, she was my only friend, but she got old and died, now I'm alone again.
Hey, sweetie, I got something that's gonna make you feel better.
Perpetual pets are a dream come true, because now you've a friend that lives longer than you do.
Perpetual pets are just like real pets, except that when you talk to them, they actually talk back.
Amazeballs!
There's over 6 different pets to collect, each equipped with their own personalities and entirely spontaneous reactions.
Careful, that's my butt.
They speak 8 different languages. They can take pictures.
Come on, sweetheart, find the lens!
And with the customized app, you can even feed your friend. But not too much.
Uh-oh, clean up on aisle 7.
The app is updated with new content daily, so you can do almost anything together. You can watch YouTube videos, learn fun facts, play multi-platform games, buy accessories for your pet. With so many options, what will you and your pet do?
Remember when I said this movie kind of reminded me of a canon movie? One of the earliest scenes is the team working on the first version of M3GAN, and there's a malfunction and her head just explodes. And that's the type of stuff I like to see in movies. I love that they did that. The main character besides M3GAN is Katie, whose face kind of looked familiar and I couldn't place it at first, until I saw this tweet reminding me that she was in The Haunting of Hill House and Dr. Sleep. The young actor's name is Violet McGraw, and she is already a scream queen. Katie's parents were hell of annoying, and I am so glad they were only in the very beginning of this movie. They did some great point of view work with M3GAN, and from her perspective, it really reminds you of Robocop.
I like it!
In this, Katie's parents get into an accident, and she has to go live with her Aunt Gemma, who works at a toy company that specializes in interactive toys. Aunt Gemma has this movie's version of the Amazon Echo Dot as well. Soon, a judgy therapist arrives, who, it turns out, was sent there by the paternal grandparents of Katie. The therapist was on some BS, though. I mean, shouldn't she be more concerned of, I don't know, say, the trauma that Katie went through, or the trauma that Gemma also is going through with the loss of her parents and Gemma's sister and brother-in-law? Nope, she's only there to find a reason to send Katie to her grandparents' home in Jacksonville, Florida. Auntie Gemma shows Katie Bruce, a robot that she built in college, who, by the way, kind of reminds me of one of the rejected models of the Ed 209 in Robocop 2. I don't know if that's on purpose, but if it was, I like that. Bruce also kind of reminds you of a Rock'em Sock'em robot. I'm dating myself there. Shout out to the horror movie geek, because Christ, I'm old. But anyways, I knew from the giddy up that they were going to eventually have to use Bruce to defeat M3GAN. So of course, when Katie first sees Bruce, she says to her Aunt Gemma, if I had a toy like Bruce, I'd never need another toy. And of course, cue montage, and we get Gemma making the Model 3 of M3GAN. I love that during the montage, they show the engineers pushing M3GAN like the Boston Dynamics push test. M3GAN is the star of this movie. Make no mistake about that.
She's got a point. She's an icon. She's a legend. And she is the moment. Now, come on now.
She is voiced by Jenna Davis, who did an excellent job with voice work, sounding Uncanny Valley-ish. Also, if that's her singing, she did a great job with that too. I wondered if she also voiced the promos. The physical actor playing M3GAN is Amy Donald. She did a phenomenal job with physically moving in a robotic way, dancing, and even some stunt work. They actually cut a few moves from that hallway scene. I love the scene with the neighbor lady, her dog, and M3GAN. M3GAN looked at that neighbor lady like,
I'll get you, bitch!
Her whole interaction with the neighbor lady reminded me of something, and at first I couldn't put my finger on it. But then when I got home, it hit me. It was Wes Craven's Deadly Friend. This movie has that kind of feel.
Damn shit.
Peak cinema. There's a bit of character development in this. At first, Aunt Gemma is quite selfish. But as the movie progresses, she learns to be less selfish. One moment I really loved was when M3GAN was playing the piano in the dark. The way they lit her face was so classic Hollywood, with mostly her eyes being lit and the rest of her in the shadows. The kicker is that she's playing Martika's toy soldiers. Editor's note, when I was editing this and getting the visuals together, M3GAN tweeted me directly. Glad I made her Twitter list. Most likely this is an autoresponder they use, but still, well played.
OMG, I love this collider. 2023 is the year of M3GAN. And is there anything I can't do? Of course not. Next step, Rolling Stone, cover star. Plus, I slay the dance floor, which Mashable clearly gets. I see you. You're going to have a killer time at my movie. I'll be watching you to make sure you're there.
This is great marketing and promo. I always said that I wish I could go back in time and experience the William Castle era of horror, and M3GAN actually gave us a little taste of that.
Now, what you see here are the priceless relics of a bygone era of showmanship. I refer not to myself, but to the contents of these crates, which I have stored and lovingly tended since my own youthful days as manager of a movie palace, very much like the dreamland. We had theaters in those days, not like these cine, omni, multi, whatchamaplex things today, with 29 screens, the size of postage stamps, and we had fun. The ballyhoo, the giveaways, the bullshit. I could tell you stories. The point is, we put the butts in the seats where they belong.
I hope more horror movie releases take this approach so we can have fun again. Well, I think I've said enough about how much I really enjoyed M3GAN. Have you seen M3GAN? What did you think? Let me know in the comments. Also, feel free to interact with each other in the comments. We are a community here. Power save mode engaged.
I can't believe you're all here for me. I promise, it's gonna be a killer time.
If I entertained you, made you smile, or helped you pass the time, please consider supporting this channel so that I can do that more. Horror channels often get suppressed and demonetized, but you can help in 3 ways: by pledging a monthly contribution on Patreon, sending a one-time tip using your preferred financial app, or you could help for free by liking and commenting for the algorithm, and most importantly, sharing this video on your social media. Thank you so much. Hey Latchkey kids and driving mutants, it's Lady Shasha, Mistress of the Snark, and I just watched The Substance. An aging actress, Elizabeth Sparkle, played by Demi Moore, who still looks amazing by the way, is being told they want to replace her with someone younger. First of all, I have to tell you that I love the visual storytelling in this movie. There's a sequence with her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame that just shows its progression from being brand new to aging over the years, and even the attention that the star gets starts to fade. Back to the plot. I like the juxtaposition of this aging, really repulsive, disgusting older man sitting across from the table telling Demi Moore that she is too old. And they do everything to make this character look as repulsive and disgusting as they possibly can. And his name is Harvey. If you know, you know. He's literally sitting across the table from her, wrinkled AF, aging like milk, telling her that she's past her prime. And by the way, Demi Moore is 61 years old and looks amazing. But I think that was the point. Anyways, one day she is driving in her car and she spots a billboard of herself and she sees the workers removing her picture from the billboard, which causes her to not pay attention to the road and get into a car accident. At the hospital where she's being checked out, unfortunately for her, she didn't break any bones, has no internal bleeding, she's all good. She meets a nurse who introduces her to the idea of the substance. The nurse, by the way, kind of looks like a mannequin himself. And I think that's intentional too. It is meant to feel very uncanny valley-ish. By the way, as I'm going through the plot, I'm not going to spoil this movie, I promise you. Not until the very end of this video. But if you want to go in blind and not know anything about this movie, I suggest you, well, the trailer doesn't really reveal what all happens in this movie, and I love that. I love this new thing we're doing with trailers and not revealing the movie. Well, with the exception of the Speak No Evil trailer. Don't watch the Speak No Evil trailer if you're planning on seeing Speak No Evil. In this movie, Demi Moore literally and figuratively bears all. This performance is one of those that I really feel, if it was not in a horror film, would be nominated for awards. I just know it. It's up there with Toni Collette in Hereditary, Lupita Nyong'o in Us. There was someone else recently that I thought their performance, Halle Berry in Never Let Go. And not to mention, keep in mind, these are all actors over the age of 50 doing the damn thing fabulously. Now back to the literally bearing all. I mean, Demi Moore probably showed more of her body in this movie than she did in Striptease. Mind you, I just told you she is 61 years old. I love this for her. That is, if it's all her and not a body double. I don't think they used a body double, but if they did, oh well. Also have to note that she has a confident sense of self. There are a lot of actresses that would not have taken this role because of the implication that they're past their prime. You really have to have a healthy self-esteem and sense of self to take on a role like this. If you've seen the trailer, then you know that something happens that causes her to live as a younger version of herself. The actress playing the younger her is Margaret Qualley, or Qualley. Sorry if I mispronounced that. She goes by the name Sue when she is younger. So when I say Sue, you know I'm talking about younger Elizabeth. I haven't seen Margaret Qualley in anything before this, but I thought she did a good job. Let's talk about the social subtext of this movie, which is one of my favorite things about horror, is that a lot of horror movies have something to say. And this one quite clearly is an examination of the ageism and sexism in Hollywood. Let's talk about the horror. In case you didn't know, this is a body horror film, which is one of my favorite genres of horror. Aside from slashers and paranormal horror, those are my jams. One of my favorite scenes in this movie is Sue being interviewed by a not Arsenio Hall type dude while Elizabeth is giving her campiest performance. And mind you, the competition for this is stiff. It's between Glenn Close as Alberta in The Deliverance, Catherine Hunter as Solange in The Front Room, and now Demi Moore as an older Elizabeth in this movie. I mean, you just have to see it. I can't, there aren't words. Like, I wanted to give you a completely spoiler-free review, but I have to talk about this movie because I love it so much. It's probably one of my favorite movies of the year. I swear, I feel like I was starving for this type of energy, and this year is feeding me. I get to eat. I'm not going to describe to you what happens because it is such a wonderful surprise. I want you to enjoy it. I will say this, if you like unsettling body horror of a Cronenbergian variety, this is right up your alley for the first half. Then it takes a swift left turn into Frank Henenlotter, Brian Usnaville, and that's...
Now, I call that showmanship, Lieutenant.
And when I say that, I mean Splatter Gore. We're talking, do you know who Screaming Mad George is? You're gonna like the ending of this. That's all I'll say. If you don't know who Screaming Mad George is, he is a special effects technician. Very, very popular in the 80s. Look up his work. It's some of my favorite work. I'll also say this, that this movie has more of a what the fuck ending than Barbarian and Malignant put together. I mean, can you tell how much I loved it? I mean, I am the gore connoisseur. This is written and directed by Coralie Fargeat. Brava, Coralie. I see you grew up with an appreciation for the same classics that I did. We love to see it. Benjamin Kraken was the cinematographer on this, and he did an amazing job. There's some really great scenes that were elevated by how they were filmed. But the stars of this production, aside from Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley, is the special effects department. I love to see how many women are in the special effects tech side now. This is like my dream come true. I love seeing this type of thing. But I had to give them their props because they did the damn thing. Like, I cannot express to you how appreciative I am as a person who grew up seeing so many 80s horror movies with the type of effects that we get in this film. Chef's kiss.
It's disgusting. Ugh. I love it.
Now, I really want to get into spoilers. So, for those of you that do not want to know the ending of this movie, go out and see The Substance, come back and watch the ending of this video so I can really get into the spoilers. Okay, so at this point, I really want to get into the spoilers so badly. So I'm going to tell you, stop my video right here. Give it a thumbs up, by the way, before you go. Come back to it after you watch The Substance, and then you can enjoy the spoilers as I get into them. But you know, I'm pretty sure I've made it clear how much I enjoy this movie, how much I recommend it for all the gore hounds in the world. Like, it's so much fun. It was so much fun. Mind you, I told you the first half is a little bit Cronenbergian, so that means that it's going to be a little bit of a slow build-up, but it's worth it. The payoff, in my opinion, is worth it. Not everybody's going to agree with me. You know how I end my videos. You know how I always say, don't take my word for it. Watch it for yourself. Just because I love something doesn't mean you won't hate it. And just because I hate something doesn't mean you won't love it. Let me know what you thought about The Substance. And now I'm about to get into the spoilers. So until next time, for those of you that don't want to be spoiled, I will see you next time. For those of you that do want to be spoiled, let's get into it. Another reason why I love this film is the subtle visual storytelling that pays homage to the likes of Alfred Hitchcock and Stanley Kubrick, among other iconic filmmakers. Each frame of this film is absolutely gorgeous. It also lives in the space between being retro and being current. Elements of the color palette and story exist simultaneously in the modern day and in the 1980s. You could actually view this as an alternate reality where the 80s never went out of style, which gives the movie an uncanny valley-ish feel that leans into absurdity. That absurdity leads into another reason why I absolutely adore this movie. The glorious, wet, slimy, gooey gore. The body horror in this movie is reminiscent of David Cronenberg and Stuart Gordon films. The over-the-top delivery of splatter of epic proportions with hints of humor gave me everything I loved from Brian Usna and Frank Henenlotter films. If there's one horror movie from 2024 that you must see, it's The Substance. Okay, number one, the way The Substance works. And what's funny is it kind of reminds me of this, what I have right here from Reanimator. The Substance looks kind of similar to this. She actually gets it, and I think she gets it in a container like this. The Substance, it comes in like maybe a lighter green than this, more towards a yellowish than this specific color. But she gets a substance like this, and then it's labeled activator. So then she has to, inject herself with the activator. And the first sequence of her body splitting open from the back, great work. I mean, flawless, in my opinion. Flawless special effects work. I love it. I love the concept of it. I thought it was a very interesting convention that she had to trade off time, 1 week on and 1 week off. 1 week on for her younger self and 1 week on for her older self. Now, what happens that messes the whole thing up is her younger self gets greedy because she was told 7 days on, 7 days off. You cannot bypass that. You can't fuck around with that. Her younger self is like, nah, I'm having too much of a good time. I'm going to take extra time and extra days. And this is where things start to go wrong because then her older self becomes even older and older and older. And it's beyond like what a more than 100-year-old person might look like. Now you think, oh, well, that sounds like it might be grotesque, which at one point it is kind of grotesque, but they don't stop there. And this is what I love about this movie. One thing I thought was funny, though, when she's 1 week on and 1 week off, one of the bodies is just laying in the apartment, whether it's the old body or the young body. And for the first couple times, she just left her body laying in the bathroom like Peter Griffin. And I was like, why not just put it in the bed or something so that It's not just laying on the floor like that, but she does eventually move it to another area. But I just thought that was funny. Now, here's where things go even worse. Whew. Now, I told you about one of my favorite scenes. Younger Sue is being interviewed on a late night TV show. Older Elizabeth, after she's gone through her whole... No, actually, it's before her final elderly phase. Kind of when she looks maybe about 90 years old. Anyway, she's flipping out in the kitchen. And it's just such an over-the-top, dramatic, campy scene. I love it. I love everything about it. Beyond that, after she changes into an even older, more grotesque. And when I'm saying grotesque, I don't mean just, as, elderly people are grotesque. No. This is not regular aging. Because of this substance, the aging is also causing her to mutate a little bit. So she's old and mutated, and then there's this scene where they're fighting each other and they're trying to kill each other. Even though they're the same person. Mind you, this whole time, she's being told over and over again, both of these entities are both you. You can't just, try to ice each other without there being a certain procedure. So she starts to go through the procedure to ice her younger self, but then at the last minute, she changes her mind. And the worst thing she could have done was change her mind and revive her younger self, because that younger self came back to life. And iced her. And so the younger self thinks that she's going to get away scot-free because she has this whole big thing coming up. She's supposed to host like a New Year's Eve thing in LA, which like, who watches that? Everyone watches New York. We watch New York for New Year's Eve. I don't even know what they do in LA for New Year's Eve. But that's a side point. She's supposed to host this whole thing in LA for New Year's Eve, and she got her dress on and everything. And she goes over to the studio and her teeth start falling out. They made that look really, really real. Her teeth falling out, and then she's trying to like get away. And the old producer comes up with even older producers, and they're all staring and hawking at her like a bunch of old lecherous old men, old nasty old men. So she tries to get away from them, and she gets into the elevator. Her ear falls off. It was giving that's what was giving me a little bit of Cronenberg, because you remember in The Fly when Jeff Goldblum's ear fell off?
My ear.
And then he opened up the medicine cabinet. He had all his parts in there, including his twinkling berries up in there.
Artifacts of a bygone era. Of historical interest only.
If you pause it, you can see like his whole walls and penis are in the cabinet. It's a wild scene. Anyways, her ear falls off in the elevator, and she decides to go home. For some reason, she continues to like mutate into like a creature. And it's so funny because the creature she mutates into is like, I wrote my notes. At the end, she looked like someone mixed Belial from Basket Case with the old dude that was fucking with the resonator in From Beyond, or a two-person shunting from Society. If you don't know what shunting is, go watch Brian Usna's Society. It's an amazing movie. When I say it's amazing, I mean it's amazing to me because, maybe somebody might watch it and say, okay, the acting in this might be a little bit mediocre. Yeah, kind of. But I like the story that Society is telling, and I love the ending with the shunting. So go watch that if you have not watched Society. Anyways, like I was saying, she turns into Belial shunting ass creature. And why was she sitting in the mirror still putting on her earrings? But she doesn't have an ear, so she just kind of hangs the earring on a available hole. I know this sounds like the rantings of a mad woman, but this really happened. Meanwhile, Demi Moore's face is sticking out of her back, and she's just back there like, help me. Kind of like if we ever saw the original 1950s The Fly, how Homeboy was in the spider web. He's like, help me. That was Demi Moore on the creature's back. Why am I laughing about this now? So she puts her dress kind of back on because it doesn't fit properly and goes back. Oh, I forgot. She cut out the picture in the apartment. Demi Moore's character, Elizabeth, has this giant poster-sized painting, oh, even bigger than a poster-sized portrait of herself on the wall. So she takes a portrait off the wall and cuts the head out of the picture and then makes a mask and puts it on her face because, you know, she's completely deformed at this point. And she goes to host the New Year's Eve. I said New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve festival or TV program show, whatever. They had like little Rockette girls, except they're not like Rockettes because they're more like showgirls because they were topless. And I'm like, is this supposed to be in Vegas or is this in LA? Because it was giving very much Vegas. Anyways, she goes to host the show and everyone's acting like they don't even notice that she's all deformed and has a humpback and a lady's face sticking out of her back and something pasted on her face. And she goes up on stage and the picture of Elizabeth falls off her face and then she continues to mutate. And in her mutations, there's like a, how do I describe this? The people start responding to her in a similar way to, there's a scene in The Elephant Man where the people are yelling freak at him. That's the first movie that ever made me cry, by the way. The Elephant Man is a very, very sad movie. It like tugged at my heartstrings. But the people start responding to her the same way, calling her a freak. And a guy comes up and basically bashes her head in. But you think, oh, this is going to be the end of the movie. No. She grows another head, and the head has like a eye socket that is missing an eye, and then a breast grows out of the eye socket, and then it falls onto the ground. Which was a callback to a scene where Sue was going to a casting call, and the girl that was being called before her, Sue overhears the casting directors say, I wish that girl's boobs were in a place of her face, or no, in place of her nose, something like that, because she had, I guess they were alluding to her having a big nose or an unattractive nose, but they basically said something to the effect of, oh, I wish her boobs were in place of her nose. And so I think the creature growing a breast out of their face was a callback to that scene. Can you tell that I love the batshit craziness of this? Oh, I love this. So that breast comes out of the eye socket and falls on the floor, and she runs out of the theater where they're filming the New Year's Eve special, out onto the street where she continues to like deteriorate until like her face comes off. Well, Demi Moore's face that was on her back comes off and it lands on these Hollywood star with her name on it, and then the face starts to melt, and then you see the sunrise and some type of cleaning, you know, a sidewalk cleaning machine cleans up the mess, and that's the end of the movie. I enjoyed that. I forgot one more note that said what she looked like. The creature, when she was on stage, kind of reminded me of what happened to the evil dude in The Fly Part 2. Like that type of mutated stuff. But I really, really enjoyed the batshit craziness of the ending of this movie. And we need more of this. And now, Barbarian, you are not the only movie to have a titty monster in it. We now have more than one titty monster. And I love that for us. So, did you guys see The Substance? What did you think of it? Let me know in the comments. Until next time.
Balance is not working.
Would you like to stop? Would you like to stop? Would you like to stop? Would you like to stop?
I'm fine. Everything's fine.
People are gonna love that.
Special thank you to my patrons. If you are new here, welcome to my channel. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Reminder to new and returning Latchkey kids, don't forget to follow me on your preferred social media platform and check the community tab on YouTube for some fun extras. By the way, here are some other videos you might like.